The hourglass pulsed with temporal energy as Liu Kang, keeper of time and fire god of the new era, worked to stabilize the fragile threads of his newly created timeline. Each adjustment required precision. Too much force and entire realms could fracture. Too little and the timeline would collapse back into chaos. He had shaped this new reality carefully, giving champions second chances, re-rating tragedies, creating a universe where balance might finally be achieved. Then the dimensional barrier screamed. Liu Kang's head snapped up as reality itself tore open above the hourglass chamber. Not a portal, something was simply pushing through existence like paper, casually ignoring every cosmic law that governed interdimensional travel. Purple and black energy crackled around the rupture as a figure stepped through, hands clasped behind his back, expression utterly bored. The being was humanoid but distinctly alien. Purple skin, elongated ears, and eyes that carried the weight of eons. He wore Egyptian-inspired regalia, and his very presence radiated power that made even Liu Kang's divine fire flicker. This was no mortal. This was no ordinary god. This was something that existed on a level that transcended Liu Kang's carefully constructed hierarchy. "Whis," the purple being said, without looking back through the closing rift. "I was certain you detected food here. I sense only—" He paused, golden eyes finally focusing on Liu Kang. "Ah, another god. How disappointing." Liu Kang's hands ignited with dragon fire, defensive stance automatic. "Who are you? How did you breach the dimensional barriers of my timeline?" "Breached?" The being's tone suggested genuine confusion. "I merely stepped through. Your barriers are as substantial as rice paper." I yawned, covering his mouth with one hand. "I am Beerus, god of destruction for Universe 7. My attendant detected unusual energy signatures from this dimension, something about a Mortal Kombat tournament. I assumed it was a culinary competition." "The Mortal Kombat Tournament is sacred combat that determines the fate of realms," Liu Kang said carefully, divine senses analyzing this Beerus. The power radiating from him was staggering, different from Elder God energy, more primal, more destructive. "Not food." Beerus's expression shifted from bored to intrigued. "Combat? Between mortals?" He stroked his chin. "How quaint, though I suppose it could prove mildly entertaining. I've been dreadfully bored lately. Destroying planets loses its novelty after the first few million years." "Destroying planets?" Liu Kang's flames intensified. "This timeline will not—" "Relax, Fire God." Beerus waved dismissively. "I'm merely observing for now. Though I am curious, these combatants of yours, are they strong, worth my time?" His eyes gleamed with sudden interest. "Or will they bore me like everything else in my universe?" Before Liu Kang could respond, thunder cracked through the chamber. Raiden materialized in a bolt of lightning, electricity still crackling around his form. The Thunder God's eyes widened as he registered Beerus's presence, his experienced warrior's instincts immediately recognizing the threat level. "Liu Kang," Raiden said slowly, never taking his eyes off Beerus. "The Elder Gods have detected a divine anomaly, something that shouldn't exist in this timeline." "The Elder Gods?" Beerus perked up. "More gods? This dimension has quite the collection. Are they strong?" "They are cosmic overseers who maintain the balance of all realms," Raiden explained, his tone cautious. "And they are concerned. Your power signature registers as something they've never encountered. You are not of this multiverse." "Clearly." Beerus examined his clawed hand casually. "Your multiverse seems rather limited in scope. In my universe, there are 12 universes, each with their own god of destruction and attendant deities. I am one such destroyer, It is my purpose to eliminate planets, civilizations, even gods who have outlived their usefulness. I maintain cosmic balance through annihilation." The temperature in the chamber dropped as both Liu Kang and Raiden processed this. A being whose very existence was dedicated to destruction, with the power to casually erase planets, and he had simply walked into their timeline as if dimensional barriers were suggestions. "The Mortal Kombat Tournament begins in 3 days," Liu Kang said, making a decision. "If you wish to observe our warriors, you may attend. But know this, the tournament is bound by sacred rules established by the elder gods. Even divine beings who participate must abide by combat law." Beerus's eyes narrowed with interest. "Rules that bind even gods? Intriguing. Very well, Fire God. I shall attend this Mortal Kombat of yours. Perhaps these warriors will provide some small amusement. Though if they disappoint me, I may simply destroy this entire dimension out of spite." Liu Kang and Raiden exchanged glances. Both had faced world-ending threats before: Kronika, Shinnok, Shao Kahn's invasions. But this being radiated power on a scale that dwarfed them all, and he had come to their universe seeking entertainment. "The tournament will be held at the Wuxi Academy," Liu Kang said finally. "Champions from across all realms will compete. I will inform the combatants of your attendance." "Excellent." Beerus yawned again. "Now, is there anywhere in this dimension I can find decent food? I'm famished after the dimensional crossing." As Raiden cautiously offered to show Beerus to Earthrealm's finest establishments, Liu Kang remained by the hourglass, watching the purple god depart. The timeline threads were already shifting, adjusting to account for this impossible variable. A god of destruction in the Mortal Kombat universe. What had his new era just invited into existence? If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Finish him. Across realms, champions prepared for the coming tournament, unaware that a being who destroyed planets for breakfast had just decided to participate in their sacred combat. The Wuxi Academy awaited, and with it, battles that would test the very meaning of power, skill, and what it meant to be a warrior worthy of respect. The Wuxi Academy stood as it had for centuries, a testament to Shaolin discipline and martial perfection nestled in the mountains of Earthrealm. Stone courtyards echoed with the sounds of training as combatants from across realms prepared for the tournament. Liu Kang had summoned the greatest warriors to this sacred ground, and they had answered. But none of them were prepared for Beerus. The god of destruction sat cross-legged in the main courtyard, eyes closed, appearing to meditate. In reality, he was simply bored. The finest food Raiden had provided consisted of earth cuisine that barely registered as adequate. The warriors training around him moved with what they clearly considered impressive speed and power. To Beerus, they might as well have been moving through water. "Your form is sloppy," Beerus said, without opening his eyes. Kung Lao froze mid-kata, his razor-edged hat still spinning in his hand. The Shaolin warrior turned toward the purple alien, irritation flashing across his face. "Excuse me?" "Your technique." Beerus finally opened his eyes, golden gaze boring into Kung Lao with divine appraisal. "You rely too heavily on that hat weapon. Your footwork suggests you're compensating for inadequate close combat skills. In a true fight, you'd be dead before the hat left your hand."
Kung Lao's jaw tightened. He'd trained his entire life in Shaolin martial arts, descended from the legendary great Kung Lao, who'd won the tournament generations ago. This stranger, god or not, had no right to critique his form. "Perhaps you'd like to demonstrate proper technique." Kung Lao, Liu Kang's voice cut through the tension as the fire god emerged from the temple. "Do not provoke our guest." "Guest?" Kung Lao gestured at Beerus. "Liu Kang, this being radiates power that makes my skin crawl. Why have you allowed him here?" Other combatants had gathered now, Johnny Cage adjusting his sunglasses, Sonya Blade's hand near her sidearm, Scorpion watching from the shadows with flames around his kunai. Even Sub-Zero had emerged from his meditation chamber, frost gathering around his fingertips. Beerus stood with fluid grace that suggested absolute confidence. "I am Beerus, god of destruction. I've come to observe your Mortal Kombat tournament. Your fire god has graciously invited me to witness whether your warriors are worth the cosmic energy they occupy." "Destruction god?" Johnny Cage stepped forward, green energy already flickering around his fists. "Listen, purple space cat, we've dealt with gods before. Shinnok, Cetrion, Dark Raiden, the whole divine lineup. You might want to dial back the arrogance before someone teaches you some manners." Beerus tilted his head, studying Johnny with the same interest one might give an insect. "You have god-killing experience? How amusing. Tell me, mortal, which of your gods required actual effort to kill?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Johnny's cocky grin faltered as he remembered. Shinnok had nearly destroyed everything, required Cassie's ancient power to defeat. Dark Raiden had been corrupted, not killed. These weren't easy victories. They'd been desperate, bloody struggles where champions died. "The combatants of this realm have indeed slain gods," Raiden said, materializing in a crack of thunder. "But they did so through skill, sacrifice, and honor, not through overwhelming power alone." "Ah, the Thunder God," Beerus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Your lightning, it's crude but functional. Have you ever fought another god, one who wasn't limited by your elder god's restrictions?" Raiden's eyes crackled with electricity. "I have fought for Earthrealm's survival against impossible odds for eons. My power is sufficient for my purpose." "Then perhaps you'd like a demonstration." Beerus raised one finger, and reality itself seemed to hold its breath. "Let's see if your lightning can match." "Enough." Liu Kang's voice carried the authority of the timeline's creator. Dragonfire erupted around him, divine power filling the courtyard. The two gods stared at each other, fire and destruction, creator and annihilator. The combatants felt the air pressure increase as divine energies clashed without physical contact. Stone cracked beneath their feet. The sky above the academy darkened. Then Beerus laughed. It was genuine amusement, the first real emotion he'd shown since arriving. The elder gods convened in their cosmic sanctum, a realm beyond realms where time and space bent to their ancient will. 6 divine beings of immeasurable age observed the mortal plane through the ethereal veil, their attention focused on a single purple figure currently decimating a buffet table in the Wuxi Academy's dining hall. "This entity does not belong in our timeline," spoke the elder goddess of order, her voice resonating across dimensions. "Liu Kang's new era was carefully balanced. This destroyer threatens to unravel everything." "He radiates power beyond our understanding," another elder god acknowledged. His energy signature suggests he exists on a level comparable to our own, yet operates under entirely different cosmic laws. "Then we must remove him," declared a third. "We cannot," Liu Kang's voice echoed through their sanctum as the fire god manifested before them, his presence permitted by his role as timeline keeper. "Beerus entered our dimension through his own power, ignoring barriers that even you cannot fully reinforce. Attempting to forcibly remove him may result in catastrophic damage to the timeline structure. Worse, it may anger him." "You fear this destroyer?" The question carried judgment. "I respect his power," Liu Kang corrected. "In his universe, he maintains cosmic balance through destruction. Entire civilizations exist at his whim. He is not evil, but he is absolute. If we treat him as an enemy, he may respond by erasing our entire dimension out of irritation." The elder gods conferred silently among themselves, cosmic awareness analyzing every probability. Finally, they spoke as one. "Then he must be bound by tournament law. If he participates in Mortal Kombat, he submits to our authority. His most destructive abilities will be restricted within the sacred arena." "He has agreed to these terms," Liu Kang confirmed, "though I suspect he finds the restrictions amusing." "Amusing?" The elder goddess's tone darkened. "He treats our sacred laws as entertainment?" "He treats everything as entertainment, but that may work in our favor. Beerus is bored, desperately so. The tournament offers him something his universe cannot: genuine challenge through restricted combat. If our warriors can impress him, he may leave peacefully. If they bore him—" Liu Kang left the threat unspoken. The elder gods understood. "Very well. The tournament shall proceed. But know this, Fire God, if the destroyer violates our laws, if he threatens the balance of realms, we will act. Consequences be damned." Back in the mortal realm, Beerus had discovered one redeeming quality of Earthrealm, its culinary variety. While nothing compared to Universe 7's finest delicacies, certain dishes showed promise. He was currently sampling what Johnny Cage had called pizza when Shang Tsung appeared. The sorcerer moved with practiced deference, his ancient eyes gleaming with barely concealed hunger. "Lord Beerus, I presume? I am Shang Tsung, sorcerer and master of souls. I've heard fascinating tales of your power." Beerus glanced up from his meal, tomato sauce on his chin. "Sorcerer, how quaint. What do you want?" "Merely to welcome you to our tournament." Shang Tsung's smile never reached his eyes. "A being of your caliber deserves special consideration. Perhaps we could discuss arrangements that would make your stay more comfortable." "Comfortable?" Beerus licked his fingers clean. "I'm perfectly comfortable. This pizza is adequate." "I meant in terms of the tournament itself." Shang Tsung leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "The rules restricting divine power, they seem limiting for one such as yourself. I've studied dimensional magic for centuries. Perhaps I could help you circumvent certain restrictions, allow your true power to manifest during combat." For the first time since arriving, Beerus's expression turned genuinely dangerous. His golden eyes fixed on Shang Tsung with the focus of a predator recognizing prey. "Are you suggesting I cheat?" The temperature in the room plummeted. Shang Tsung's confident smile wavered as he felt the full weight of Beerus's attention. This wasn't rage. It was something far more terrifying. It was offense. "I am a god of destruction. Beerus said quietly, each word carrying absolute authority. "I have destroyed civilizations that spanned galaxies. I have erased gods who defied cosmic order. I have never, in my billions of years of existence, required cheating to defeat an opponent." He stood, his relatively small stature somehow towering over the ancient sorcerer. "I came to this universe seeking challenge, not shortcuts. If I cannot defeat your warriors under tournament restrictions, then I deserve to lose." Shang Tsung stumbled backward, soul-stealing magic instinctively gathering in his palms as survival instinct overrode his cunning. "Forgive me, I meant no—" "Your soul magic," Beerus interrupted, noticing the green energy. "You steal the essence of defeated opponents? Interesting. How many souls have you collected?" "Thousands," Shang Tsung admitted, relaxing slightly as Beerus's killing intent faded into curiosity. "Each victory in Mortal Kombat grants me their power, their knowledge, their very existence. And yet you still resort to schemes and manipulation." Beerus shook his head, disappointed. "In my universe, there are mortals who've achieved power through training alone that would dwarf your stolen collection. Saiyans who break their limits through battle. Humans who've mastered martial arts to transcend mortality. They don't steal power, they earn it." The rebuke stung worse than any physical blow. Shang Tsung had lived for centuries, accumulated the souls of countless warriors, mastered sorcery that could reshape reality itself, and this god dismissed it all as inadequate. "Then perhaps you would honor me with a demonstration." The words left Shang Tsung's mouth before wisdom could stop them. Pride had been wounded, and pride made even ancient sorcerers foolish. "A friendly match before the tournament? Show me this earned power you speak of?" Beerus considered the offer, then smiled. "No." "No? If I fight you now, I'll kill you, probably accidentally. I'm still adjusting to this dimension's durability standards. Your mortals seem quite fragile." Beerus returned to his pizza. "Wait for the tournament, sorcerer. If we're matched, you'll get your demonstration, though I suspect you'll regret requesting it." Shang Tsung bowed and retreated, but his mind was already spinning. The god of destruction's power was beyond anything he'd encountered, yet tournament rules would restrict it. If he could arrange the right matchup, observe Beerus's fighting style, perhaps find a way to steal even a fraction of that divine energy, the possibilities were intoxicating. That evening, Beerus stood alone in the Wuxi Academy's highest courtyard, watching Earth's sun set. Whis had remained behind in Universe 7, confident his lord could handle himself. For the first time in millennia, Beerus was truly alone in an unfamiliar universe. It was refreshing. "Meditating, destroyer?" Scorpion emerged from the shadows, hellfire casting flickering light across the stones. "Observing," Beerus corrected. "Your Earth has a certain primitive beauty, nothing like the advanced worlds I typically destroy, but adequate." "You speak of destruction so casually." Scorpion's voice carried the weight of one who'd experienced death intimately. "Have you ever considered the lives you erase, the families destroyed, the futures ended?" "Constantly." The answer surprised Scorpion. Beerus turned to face him fully. "I am not some mindless destroyer, Spectre. Every world I erase is carefully considered. I eliminate stagnation, remove civilizations that have ceased evolving, prune universes to maintain balance. It is not cruelty, it is necessity." "And who gave you the right to make such judgments?" "The Omni-King, the supreme being who created all universes. I am his instrument of cosmic balance. Just as your Liu Kang shapes timelines, I shape universes through selective destruction." Scorpion studied the purple god, hellfire dying down slightly. You and I are more alike than I expected. How so? I, too, was an instrument of destruction. After my family was murdered, I became vengeance itself. I burned everyone who stood in my path, killed without mercy, served Netherrealm's evil because it gave me purpose. Scorpion's fists clenched. It took me years to learn that true strength isn't about how much you can destroy. It's about protecting what matters. Sentimental, Beerus dismissed, though such philosophies have value for mortals. But I am no mortal, Spectre. I do not protect, I eliminate. That is my nature. Then why are you here? Scorpion challenged. Why travel to another universe just to watch mortals fight? If destruction is your only nature, why seek entertainment in combat? The question hit closer to truth than Beerus cared to admit. He was silent for a long moment, watching Earth's sun complete its descent.
Because, he finally said, even gods grow weary of their purpose. I destroy because I must, but perhaps just once I'd like to see if mortals can show me something beyond destruction. Show me why they fight so desperately to survive. Scorpion nodded slowly. Then you've come to the right place, Destroyer. In Mortal Kombat, we fight for everything: honor, vengeance, redemption, survival. Our combat reveals what lies in a warrior's heart. We'll see. Beerus turned back to the horizon. Though I warn you, if your tournament bores me, I may still destroy this dimension. I have standards to maintain. Fair enough. Scorpion faded back into shadows. But I suspect you'll find our warriors more entertaining than you expect. We've faced gods before. We know how to make them bleed. As Scorpion vanished, Beerus smiled. Perhaps this Mortal Kombat would prove worthwhile after all. The tournament was 2 days away, and the god of destruction's interest was finally, genuinely piqued. The tournament brackets were announced at dawn. Liu Kang stood before the assembled combatants in the Wuxi Academy's main hall, divine fire casting flickering shadows across ancient stone walls. Warriors from across realms had gathered, Earthrealm's champions, Outworld's finest, even representatives from the Netherrealm stood among them, bound by tournament truce. The Mortal Kombat Tournament begins tomorrow. Liu Kang's voice resonated with divine authority. 16 warriors will compete. The victor earns glory eternal and the right to shape their realm's destiny. His eyes swept across the gathered fighters. This tournament holds special significance. We fight not for realm conquest, but to prove the worth of combat itself. Beerus sat in the back, arms crossed, looking supremely uninterested. That changed when Liu Kang unveiled the bracket. First match, Beerus versus Kotal Kahn. The Aztec warrior stepped forward, sunlight gleaming off his jade and gold ornaments. Kotal Kahn was massive, towering over most combatants, his body marked with ritual scars and divine tattoos. As former emperor of Outworld, he commanded the power of the sun god Buluk, capable of draining life force and channeling solar energy into devastating attacks. A god who plays at being mortal emperor, Beerus observed, finally showing interest. How appropriate for my opening match. Kotal Kahn's eyes narrowed.
I am no pretender destroyer. I have fought gods, demons, and elder beings. I have led armies across realms and defended Outworld against impossible odds. Do not assume my divinity makes me weak." On the contrary, Beerus stood, examining Kotal with genuine curiosity. "You interest me. Most gods I encounter are either too weak to matter or too arrogant to be entertaining. You seem practical, a warrior god rather than a ceremonial one." "I earned my divinity through combat and sacrifice," Kotal replied, his voice carrying pride without arrogance. "The Aztec people do not grant godhood lightly. Every scar on my body represents a battle won, a lesson learned through bloodshed." "Excellent." Beerus's smile was predatory. "Then you'll provide adequate entertainment for my first match. Try not to disappoint me." Johnny Cage leaned over to Sonya. "Is it just me, or does the space cat seem way too excited about fighting someone who can control the sun?" "Tournament rules will restrict both of them," Sonya whispered back. "Kotal can't just solar blast him to oblivion, and Beerus can't, whatever it is he does to planets." "Hakai," Beerus called out without looking at them, his hearing apparently superhuman. "I erase things from existence using destruction energy, though your elder gods have been quite insistent I not use it during tournament matches. Something about violating the spirit of combat and instant death defeats the purpose of fighting." He waved dismissively. "Tedious restrictions, but I suppose that's the point." Liu Kang continued announcing matches. Sub-Zero versus Baraka, Scorpion versus Jade, Johnny Cage versus Aaron Black. Each pairing was carefully selected to test skill, challenge assumptions, and provide maximum combat spectacle. But all eyes kept drifting back to the first match: Beerus versus Kotal Kahn, Destroyer versus Sun God. After the announcement, Kotal Kahn found himself approached by an unlikely advisor. Shang Tsung materialized from shadows, his ancient features arranged in practiced concern. "Emperor Kotal, a word. I am no longer Emperor Sorcerer, and I have no interest in your schemes." "Not a scheme, a warning." Shang Tsung gestured toward where Beerus was examining the tournament arena with bored interest. "That being is unlike anything we've faced. I attempted to probe his power last night. The energy radiating from him is wrong. It doesn't follow our dimensional laws. His very existence bends reality around him." Kotal crossed his massive arms. "You fear him." "I respect him," Shang Tsung corrected. "There's a difference. Fear is irrational. My concern is based on observable fact. Beerus could destroy this entire realm with a gesture. The only thing stopping him is his apparent sense of honor and the Elder God's restrictions." "Then the tournament will contain him." Kotal turned to leave. "Your warning is noted, but not unnecessary. I have fought gods before."
"Not like this one." Shang Tsung's voice dropped, urgent. "Raiden is a god who must conserve his power. Liu Kang, despite his divinity, still respects mortal limitations. Cetrion and Shinnok, for all their power, operated within our cosmic framework. But Beerus," the sorcerer shook his head, "he's from a universe where power scales are fundamentally different. In his reality, destroying planets is casual. Fighting gods is entertainment. What we consider ultimate power, he considers baseline competence." "Then I will show him Outworld strength," Kotal said firmly. "I did not earn my position through fear. I will face this destroyer as I have faced every challenge, with honor, courage, and the blessing of my ancestors." Shang Tsung studied the warrior god for a long moment, then smiled thinly. "Admirable. Foolish but admirable. When you fall, and you will fall, Kotal, try to last long enough for me to observe his technique. Some of us must survive this tournament to protect our realms from what comes after. The sorcerer vanished, leaving Kotal alone with his thoughts. The Oshtek warrior looked toward the arena, where workers were preparing the sacred ground for tomorrow's battles. Shang Tsung's words had been meant to intimidate, to plant seeds of doubt. They had failed. Kotal Kahn had faced impossible odds before. He'd fought against Shao Kahn's tyranny. He'd defended Outworld against Netherrealm's invasion. He'd stood against Shinnok himself. Each battle had seemed unwinnable. Each time he'd survived through skill, determination, and refusal to surrender. Tomorrow would be no different. That night, Beerus found himself unable to sleep, not from nervousness, but anticipation. It had been so long since he'd felt genuine curiosity about a fight. In Universe 7, most battles ended before they began. His reputation alone caused opponents to surrender or flee. The few who fought back were either overwhelmed instantly or proved too weak to matter. But here, in this strange universe with its archaic tournament rules and divine restrictions, he would actually fight, use technique, demonstrate skill, prove his worth through combat rather than overwhelming power. It was exhilarating. Can't sleep either? Raiden materialized on the courtyard balcony where Beerus stood. Lightning crackled softly around the Thunder God. Don't need sleep. Though I'm experiencing something I haven't in eons, anticipation. Your tournament has intrigued me more than I expected. Because we're forcing you to fight as a warrior rather than a destroyer? Precisely. Beerus turned to face Raiden fully. In my universe, I have one purpose: destroy what must be destroyed to maintain cosmic balance. It's necessary work, but it's not satisfying. There's no challenge in erasing planets, no growth in eliminating civilizations with a gesture. I am the most powerful being in Universe 7, below the angels and Omni-King himself, and that power has become a prison. Raiden nodded slowly, understanding in his ancient eyes. I know something of that isolation. For eons, I protected Earthrealm while watching mortals I cared for age and die. My power separated me from those I defended. Only through losing that power, through becoming mortal myself in previous timelines, did I truly understand what it meant to fight with everything at stake. And now you're divine again? Now I understand both perspectives. Power is a tool. What we use it defines us more than the power itself. Raiden's lightning intensified slightly. Tomorrow you'll face Kotal Kahn. He is a formidable warrior, one who's earned his divine status through blood and sacrifice. Do not underestimate him, simply because his power pales compared to yours. I never underestimate opponents, Beerus said seriously. That's how you end up dead, or worse, embarrassed. This Kotal interests me, a god who fights like a warrior, who's experienced loss and hardship. In my universe, most gods are pampered, insulated from real struggle. Your gods seem to actually have combat experience. Mortal Kombat does not discriminate. God or mortal, we all bleed when cut. We all fall when defeated. The tournament respects only skill and determination. Good, Beerus smiled, dangerous and eager. Then tomorrow will be interesting indeed. In Outworld, observed through a mystical portal, Shao Kahn watched the preparations with calculating eyes. The former emperor had been resurrected yet again, Mortal Kombat's cycle of death and rebirth seemingly unable to keep him down permanently. Though no longer emperor, his power and influence remained formidable.
This Beerus, Shao Kahn rumbled to his advisor Reiko. He could be useful. My lord, A being of such power, unaligned with any realm. If we could recruit him or manipulate him, imagine what Outworld could accomplish. With a god of destruction as our weapon, we could conquer not just Earthrealm, but all realms simultaneously. He seems resistant to manipulation, Reiko observed carefully. Shang Tsung already tried to approach him and was rebuffed. Shang Tsung tried to make him cheat. I will offer him something better, worthy opponents. Shao Kahn's eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence. After he defeats Kotal Kahn, after he advances through this tournament, I will challenge him myself. If I can impress him, earn his respect through combat, perhaps he will see Outworld as a realm worth preserving, or better yet, worth serving. And if he refuses? Shao Kahn's laughter boomed through the chamber. Then I'll have the greatest battle of my eternal life before he destroys me. Either outcome is preferable to this tedious peace Liu Kang has imposed on the realms. The warlord's ambition knew no bounds. Not even the threat of complete annihilation could dampen his desire for conquest and combat. In Beerus, Shao Kahn saw not just power, but opportunity. The tournament would begin tomorrow, and forces across all realms were already calculating how to use or survive the God of Destruction's presence. None of them truly understood what they were dealing with. The morning sun rose over the Wuxi Academy's tournament arena, illuminating ancient stone carved with the history of countless battles. The circular platform was ringed by towering pillars, each marked with the symbol of a different realm. Combatants and spectators gathered in the surrounding galleries, warriors who would fight later, representatives from across dimensions, and even the elder gods themselves, watching from their cosmic vantage point. Liu Kang stood at the arena's center, his fire god presence commanding absolute attention. The first match of this sacred tournament will now commence. Let the combatants enter. Kotal Kahn strode into the arena from the east entrance, sunlight catching on his ceremonial war paint and golden ornaments. The Aztec warrior moved with the confidence of one who'd led armies and toppled tyrants. His macuajito, an obsidian-bladed war club, rested against his shoulder, its edge sharp enough to cleave through bone and armor alike. Solar energy already pulsed beneath his skin, divine power waiting to be unleashed. From the west entrance, Beerus walked casually, hands clasped behind his back, looking like he was approaching a mildly interesting buffet rather than a death match. He wore his usual Egyptian-inspired regalia, no armor, no visible weapons, just a bored god wondering if this would finally prove entertaining. The contrast was stark, a warrior god prepared for war versus a destroyer prepared for disappointment. Combatants, Liu Kang's voice resonated across the arena. You know the rules. Fight with honor. Victory through combat skill. Death is permitted but not required. His eyes lingered on Beerus. Remember, all combatants are bound by tournament law. Divine powers are restricted to levels appropriate for fair combat. Yes, Beerus waved dismissively. No planet destroying, no existence erasing, no casual annihilation. I'm to fight like a mortal and pretend it's challenging. I understand. Kotal Kahn's jaw tightened. You mock this tournament, destroyer? You mock the warriors who have pled and died in this sacred arena? Not mocking, questioning. Beerus finally looked at Kotal with something approaching interest. You're a god. You have divine power flowing through your veins, yet you willingly submit to restrictions that diminish you. Why? Pride? Honor? Or do you simply not understand how powerful you could be without these chains? Power without discipline is chaos, Kotal replied, assuming a fighting stance.
Power without honor is tyranny. I submit to these restrictions because true strength is demonstrated through overcoming limitations, not bypassing them. For the first time since arriving in this universe, Beerus's expression shifted to genuine respect. A warrior's philosophy. How refreshing. Very well, Sun God. Show me what discipline and honor accomplish against pure power. Liu Kang's hand rose, then fell. Begin. Kotal Kahn moved first, not with the reckless charge of a brute, but with the calculated precision of a master combatant. His maquahital swept toward Beerus's midsection in a horizontal slash designed to test defenses, to gauge reaction time, to establish tempo. Beerus didn't dodge. He simply raised one finger, and the obsidian blade stopped dead, caught against his purple skin as if it had struck diamond. Interesting weapon, Beerus observed, examining the blade millimeters from his torso. Primitive but effective. The obsidian edge could actually cut through weaker materials quite efficiently. Kotal's eyes widened fractionally, not at the block, but at the casual ease of it. He'd struck with enough force to shatter stone, yet this being had stopped it with one finger and was now critiquing his weapon choice. The sun god didn't hesitate. Solar energy erupted from his free hand, concentrated solar light that could melt armor and incinerate flesh, aimed directly at Beerus's face at point-blank range. Beerus caught the solar gleam in his palm like it was a thrown ball. The golden energy crackled and sparked against his skin, burning with temperatures that would vaporize normal matter. The destroyer examined it curiously, then squeezed. The solar energy dissipated, crushed out of existence between his fingers. "Your sun god powers," Beerus said, brushing ash from his hand. "They operate on solar radiation principles, converting photonic energy into concentrated thermal output. Crude, but it shows understanding of stellar mechanics." Kotal Kahn's warrior instinct screamed danger. This wasn't just a power gap. This was fighting something that existed on a completely different scale. But he was Oshtek. He was a god warrior who'd earned his divinity through blood and sacrifice. Retreating wasn't an option. He attacked with renewed fury, not wild but aggressive. Each strike of his maquahuitl was precise, aimed at joints and vital points. Between sword strikes, he channeled solar energy into palm strikes and elbow attacks, mixing physical combat with divine power. His fighting style was pure warrior brutality, enhanced by godhood, exactly what had made him Emperor of Outworld. Beerus blocked each attack with minimal movement, his expression shifting from bored to analytical. "Your technique is solid. You've clearly trained for centuries. The way you integrate your solar powers into close combat, very efficient. Most gods rely too heavily on ranged attacks. You understand that true combat happens within arm's reach." "Stop analyzing me!" Kotal roared, dropping low and sweeping Beerus's legs while simultaneously striking downward with his blade. The sweep connected. Beerus's legs were kicked out from under him. For one heartbeat, the god of destruction was falling. Then he wasn't. Beerus had adjusted his center of gravity mid-air, rotating his body impossibly and landing on his feet in a crouch that defied physics. "Oh, you actually made me move. Well done, sun god. You're officially more competent than 90% of the beings I've fought." Kotal Kahn pressed the advantage, understanding that small victories were all he'd achieve. His maquahuitl became a blur, overhead strikes, lateral slashes, thrust attacks, each one forcing Beerus to respond, to defend, to actually engage with the combat. And Beerus was enjoying himself. The destroyer began to block with more than just fingers, actually using his hands and forearms, moving his feet, adjusting his stance. He wasn't fighting back yet, but he was participating. For someone who typically ended battles with a gesture, this was unprecedented engagement. "You're warming up," Kotal observed, between strikes, breathing becoming labored as he poured everything into maintaining pressure. "Testing my capabilities." "Guilty," Beerus admitted, catching the Makahuitl between his palms and holding it steady despite Kotal's strength. "Your ki is actually a legitimate technique. In my universe, there are wizards who've mastered similar magic, though they typically don't announce it so dramatically." The chains pulsed, draining more energy. Kotal felt his wounds healing, strength returning, divine power surging. This technique had turned the tide of countless battles, had allowed him to defeat opponents far more powerful by literally feeding on their strength. Beerus flexed. The chains shattered like glass. "The problem with life force absorption," Beerus explained calmly, "is that it assumes your opponent has a finite amount of energy to drain. My ki reserves are," he considered. "Let's just say you die of old age before draining even a fraction of my full power, and that's with me restricted by tournament law." Kotal Kahn felt despair creeping at the edges of his warrior's resolve. Every technique, every strategy, every advantage he possessed, Beerus countered effortlessly. This wasn't just a power gap, this was fighting a force of nature, an inevitability given form. But Kotal Kahn had not survived this long by surrendering to despair. "Then I'll simply have to hit harder," he growled, solar energy exploding around him in a massive nova of divine power. The technique was called Sun God Choke, a desperate all-or-nothing attack where he condensed all his solar energy into a single devastating beam. The golden light erupted from his hands, a column of concentrated stellar fire that had previously destroyed demons, incinerated warriors, and reduced armor to molten slag. The beam struck Beerus dead center, engulfing the destroyer in temperatures that rivaled the sun's surface. The arena shook, stone cracked, combatants shielded their eyes from the blinding light. When the energy dissipated, Beerus stood in a smoking crater, his clothing slightly singed, examining his hands with mild surprise. "That actually stung," he said, genuine respect in his voice. "You managed to make me feel something. That's remarkable, Sun God. You've earned my acknowledgement." Kotal Kahn collapsed to one knee, completely drained. That attack had used every drop of his divine energy, burned through his life force reserves, pushed his body past its limits. He'd given everything, and he'd barely singed the destroyer's clothing. Beerus walked across the crater toward the kneeling warrior, his footsteps echoing in the silent arena. He stopped directly in front of Kotal, looking down at the exhausted god. "You have honor," Beerus said quietly. "You have skill. You fought with everything you had, held nothing back, respected the combat. In my universe, that's the mark of a true warrior." He extended his hand. "I could finish you now. Tournament rules permit death. But I think you've proven your worth." Kotal Kahn looked up at the offered hand, pride warring with pragmatism. He'd lost, decisively, overwhelmingly, but he'd fought with honor, pushed himself to the absolute limit, and earned something perhaps more valuable than victory, the respect of a god of destruction. He took Beerus's hand. The destroyer pulled him to his feet, then turned to Liu Kang. "I forfeit the kill. This warrior deserves to live." The arena erupted in stunned silence. Beerus had won. Anyone watching could see that. Kotal Kahn was finished. But by showing mercy, by acknowledging his opponent's worth, Beerus had demonstrated something the combatants hadn't expected. The god of destruction understood honor. Liu Kang's voice rang out. "Winner, Beerus. He advances to the next round." As Kotal Kahn was helped from the arena by healers, he caught Beerus's eye one final time. The destroyer nodded, warrior to warrior, god to god. The tournament had begun, and the god of destruction had proven he was here to compete, not just destroy.
The tournament continued through the afternoon, each match revealing the brutal artistry that defined Mortal Kombat. Sub-Zero froze Baraka solid before shattering the Tarkatan's arm in a shower of ice and blood. The savage warrior would heal, but the match was decisive. Scorpion's hellfire consumed Jade's emerald energy shields, his spear finding her throat in a moment that stopped just short of fatal penetration. Yield, the Spectre had commanded, and the Edanian warrior had nodded, accepting honorable defeat. Johnny Cage's match against Aaron Black became a showcase of supernatural gunslinging versus ancient Mediterranean power, ending when Johnny's shadow kick caught the cowboy mid-reload and sent him crashing through the arena barrier. The message was clear. Even Earthrealm's comic relief could kill when pressed. But every combatant, every spectator, kept replaying Beerus's match in their minds. The casual dominance, the restrained power, the unexpected mercy. In the medical pavilion, Kotal Kahn sat while healers tended his cracked ribs and internal bruising. Liu Kang entered, divine fire casting gentle warmth rather than destructive heat. "You fought well," the fire god said. "I lost," Kotal replied flatly, decisively. "You survived. Against a being who destroys planets, you lasted minutes and earned his respect. That is its own form of victory." Liu Kang sat beside the wounded warrior. "What did you learn?" Kotal was silent for a long moment, wincing as healers set his ribs. "That power has dimensions we don't comprehend. I am a god. I command solar energy, have strength beyond mortals, have divine durability. Yet against Beerus, I felt like a child with a wooden sword facing a master swordsman. The gap wasn't just power, it was understanding. He analyzed my every technique, predicted my strategies, and countered with minimal effort. He's been fighting for billions of years," Liu Kang said, "in a universe where gods battle mortals who've achieved divine power through training alone. His experience dwarfs ours." "Then how do we defeat him?" Kotal looked at Liu Kang directly. "If the tournament continues, someone must eventually face him in the finals. Who among us can challenge a god of destruction?" Liu Kang's expression was unreadable. "Perhaps that's not the question we should be asking. Perhaps we should ask, should we defeat him, or should we show him something worth preserving?" That evening, Beerus found himself approached by an unexpected visitor. Shao Kahn emerged from the shadows of the Wuxi Academy's gardens, his massive frame somehow moving silently despite his size. The former emperor wore simple training garments rather than his ceremonial armor, but his presence was no less imposing. "Destroyer," Shao Kahn's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "I watched your match today." "And?" Beerus didn't look up from the fruit he was examining, some Earthrealm delicacy called a mango that showed surprising complexity of flavor. "You held back considerably. That sun god had no chance, yet you toyed with him, analyzed him, tested him." Shao Kahn stepped closer, eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. "Why show mercy? Why not crush him and send a message to the other combatants?" "Because crushing him would have been boring," Beerus said simply, biting into the mango. "I came to this universe seeking entertainment, not validation. Killing Kotal Kahn quickly would have ended the match in seconds. Where's the satisfaction in that?" "Entertainment," Shao Kahn laughed, the sound carrying genuine amusement.
You and I are more alike than I expected, Destroyer. I too have grown weary of weak opponents. For centuries I conquered realms, crushed armies, absorbed the souls of entire civilizations. Yet victory after victory became tedious. The thrill faded. Then you understand. Beerus finished the mango, tossing the pit aside. Overwhelming power is a prison. When you can destroy anything with a gesture, nothing has value. That's why these tournament restrictions intrigue me. They force me to actually fight. Which is precisely why I've come. Shao Kahn's smile was dangerous. I want to challenge you, Destroyer. Not in the tournament. I'm no longer a registered combatant, but a private match. You and I, unrestricted by sacred laws, a true battle between conquerors. Beerus finally looked at the warlord with genuine interest. You want me to fight you at full power? You understand that means you'll die, correct? Not might die, will die, possibly cease to exist entirely if I'm not careful with my Hakai.
I've died before, Shao Kahn dismissed. Death is temporary in this universe, but fighting a god of destruction at full power, that's eternal glory. Warriors across realms will speak my name for eons. Shao Kahn, who dared challenge Beerus the Destroyer. You're insane. I'm Outworld's greatest warrior. The correction was stated as absolute fact, and I refuse to let fear dictate my actions. If I'm to die, let it be against the strongest opponent imaginable. Beerus studied Shao Kahn for a long moment, seeing past the bravado to the warrior's genuine conviction. This wasn't arrogance, it was the mindset of someone who'd achieved everything possible in his universe and now sought ultimate challenge. Consequences be damned. I like you, Beerus decided. You're stupid but honest about it. Very well. After the tournament concludes, if you still want this fight, I'll oblige. But don't expect mercy like I showed Kotal Kahn. He earned respect through honor. You're just seeking a glorious death. The best kind of death. Shao Kahn bowed, not in submission, but in acknowledgement between warriors. I look forward to it, Destroyer. As the warlord departed, Beerus felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia, genuine anticipation for a fight. Not because Shao Kahn could threaten him, but because the warrior's mindset mirrored his own existential boredom. Two beings who'd achieved such power that only death remained interesting. You shouldn't have agreed to that. Raiden materialized nearby, lightning crackling with concern. Shao Kahn is manipulating you. He wants to study your full power, find weaknesses, develop countermeasures. Obviously, Beerus waved dismissively. I'm not an idiot, Thunder God, but his scheme is irrelevant. Let him study, plan, strategize. It won't matter. The gap between us is too vast for strategy to bridge. At least he'll die doing what he loves, fighting impossible odds. You speak of his death so casually. Because death is casual in this universe, Beerus countered. Your warriors die and return constantly. Resurrection, revenants, timeline resets. Death has lost its permanence here. In my universe, when I destroy something, it's gone forever. But here, Shao Kahn will probably be back in a few months, scheming his next conquest. Raiden couldn't argue with that assessment. Mortal Kombat's cycle of death and rebirth had indeed diminished mortality's weight. Still, I ask that you not destroy him completely. Shao Kahn may be a tyrant, but he's part of this timeline's balance. We'll see, Beerus stood, stretching. Who am I fighting in the next round? Sub-Zero, the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei, Master of Cryomancy. Ice powers? Beerus's interest flickered. That typically doesn't bother me, vacuum of space and all that, but I'm curious how your universe's ice manipulation differs from simple temperature reduction.
Sub-Zero is more than Ice Destroyer. He's a warrior who has overcome corruption, rebuilt his clan from assassins to defenders, and mastered techniques that can freeze even divine beings. Do not underestimate him, as you did not underestimate Kotal Kahn. I never underestimate opponents, Beerus said seriously. Underestimation leads to embarrassment, and I hate being embarrassed far more than I hate being challenged. Across the academy, in the Lin Kuei's meditation chamber, Sub-Zero prepared for his upcoming match. Ice crystals formed and dissipated around him as he cycled through breathing exercises, centering his chi, sharpening his focus. Scorpion entered uninvited, hellfire and ice causing steam where their energies clashed. Hanzo, Sub-Zero didn't open his eyes. To what do I owe this visit? I came to offer advice. Scorpion settled into a seated position across from his former enemy turned ally. I watched Beerus fight today, studied his movements, analyzed his technique, and he's the most dangerous being we've ever faced, not because of raw power, though he has that in abundance, but because he's genuinely skilled. That match with Kotal wasn't about power overwhelming strength, it was a master martial artist toying with a competent fighter. Sub-Zero finally opened his eyes, ice blue irises focusing on Scorpion. You think I cannot win? I think winning is irrelevant. Scorpion's hellfire pulsed. I think survival and earning respect is victory enough. Kotal Kahn lived because he fought with honor and impressed Beerus. Your goal shouldn't be victory, it should be showing the destroyer what Lin Kuei discipline can achieve. I am Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. I do not enter combat planning for defeat.
Neither did Kotal Kahn, yet he lost. Scorpion leaned forward. Pride will not protect you, Kuai Liang. Your ice powers, formidable as they are, will not freeze someone who operates in the vacuum of space. Your techniques, refined through decades, will not surprise someone who's fought for billions of years. Then what do you suggest? Scorpion was quiet for a moment, then spoke with the wisdom earned through his own journey from vengeance to redemption. Show him something he hasn't seen before. Not power, he has infinite power. Not technique, he's mastered everything. Show him adaptation. Show him a warrior who can adjust mid-battle, learn from every exchange, evolve in real time. That's something even gods struggle with. Genuine adaptability born from necessity rather than arrogance. Sub-Zero considered this, ice crystals swirling in contemplative patterns. You're suggesting I use the match as training rather than combat? I'm suggesting you treat Beerus like the ultimate teacher rather than an enemy. Every exchange is a lesson. Every failed technique teaches you something about his defenses. By the end, you may lose. You almost certainly will lose, but you'll have learned more in 5 minutes than most warriors learn in a lifetime. That's... Sub-Zero paused, a slight smile crossing his normally stoic features. Actually wise counsel, Hanzo. When did you become philosophical? When I stopped letting anger cloud my judgment. Scorpion stood, flames dying to embers. My vendetta destroyed me, turned me into a monster. Only by learning to adapt, to change, did I find peace. Apply that lesson to your fight, and perhaps you'll survive with something more valuable than victory. As Scorpion departed, Sub-Zero returned to meditation, but now his approach had shifted. He wasn't preparing to defeat Beerus, he was preparing to learn from him. The mindset change was subtle but profound. Lin Kuei discipline met with strategic humility. Perhaps that combination would prove more effective than pure power ever could.
In the cosmic sanctum, the Elder Gods observed the tournament's progression with increasing concern. Beerus shows restraint now, but for how long? One questioned. His nature is destruction. Eventually, he will tire of playing by our rules. Yet he has shown honor, another argued. He spared Kotal Kahn when death was permitted. Perhaps he is more than simple destroyer. Or perhaps he's simply amused for now. What happens when he becomes bored again? Liu Kang's voice echoed through their realm. Then we must ensure he doesn't become bored. The tournament must challenge him, intrigue him, show him that our universe, for all its limitations compared to his, possesses something worth preserving. And if we fail? Liu Kang was silent. They all knew the answer. If Beerus decided this universe was tedious, he would erase it from existence without hesitation or remorse. Not from malice, simply because destroying boring things was his purpose. The tournament continued, and with each match the stakes grew higher, not just for victory, but for the survival of everything they knew. The god of destruction had entered Mortal Kombat, and their entire reality hung in the balance of his entertainment. The second round bracket was unveiled at dawn. 8 warriors remained: Beerus, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Johnny Cage, Cassie Cage, Kung Lao, Kitana, and, surprisingly, Shang Tsung. The sorcerer had defeated his opponent through cunning rather than raw power, stealing his adversary's soul in the moment of victory as tournament rules permitted. Liu Kang stood before the remaining combatants, his expression grave. "You have all proven yourselves worthy, but understand, from this point forward, every match grows more dangerous. You face not just defeat, but potential death. The tournament's sacred nature protects you from senseless slaughter, but combat is combat, and combat has consequences." Beerus raised his hand like a bored student. "Question: when do we get to the interesting fights? So far, everyone's been competent but predictable." "Today," Liu Kang said, his eyes flashing with dragon fire. "Today you face Sub-Zero, and after that match concludes," he paused, ensuring he had everyone's attention, "the Elder Gods have authorized a special exhibition. Beerus will face me in a non-tournament match." The arena erupted in shocked murmurs. Liu Kang, the fire god who'd recreated the entire timeline, personally challenging the Destroyer? This was unprecedented. "Finally," Beerus said, genuine excitement coloring his voice, "a god who actually wants to fight, rather than just observe and judge. When?" "After your match with Sub-Zero. Win or lose, though I suspect you'll win, you and I will settle the question everyone's been wondering. Can the new era's creator defend his timeline against a god of destruction? Now that," Beerus grinned, "is entertainment worth waiting for." The arena filled quickly for the morning's first match. Word had spread about Beerus's dominance against Kotal Kahn, and combatants who weren't fighting wanted to study the Destroyer's technique. Even warriors from Outworld and Netherrealm attended, bound by tournament truce, but intensely curious. Sub-Zero entered from the east, his Lin Kuei uniform pristine white and blue, ice crystals forming in the air around him with each breath. The Grand Master's face was a mask of focused calm, but his eyes burned with determination. This wouldn't be like his brother Bihan's arrogant confidence. Kuai Liang had learned humility through hardship. Beerus entered from the west, still looking like he was strolling to breakfast rather than a death match. He'd abandoned his usual bored expression, though, replaced with something approaching professional interest. The Ice Warrior. I've been looking forward to this. Have you? Sub-Zero's voice was controlled, measured. I would think someone who destroys planets finds little interest in ice manipulation. On the contrary, Beerus assumed his fighting stance, loose but centered. Ice is fascinating, its water's solid state achieved through thermal energy reduction. But you don't just freeze things through temperature, do you? Your cryomancy operates on deeper principles. I sensed it when you fought earlier. You're manipulating molecular structures directly. Sub-Zero's eyes widened fractionally. Beerus had correctly identified the true nature of Lin Kuei ice powers just from observation. You're more perceptive than I expected. I'm a god, not an idiot. There's a difference. Beerus cracked his neck. Now show me what Lin Kuei discipline has achieved. Impress me like your sun god predecessor did. Liu Kang's hand fell. Begin. Sub-Zero moved immediately, but not with the aggressive assault Kotal Kahn had employed. Instead, he created distance, hands weaving patterns as ice began forming throughout the arena, on pillars, across the floor, even in the air itself. Within seconds, the battlefield transformed into a frozen landscape that favored the cryomancer. Environmental manipulation, Beerus observed, feeling the temperature plummet. Smart. You're creating a domain where your powers are amplified and my movement potentially hindered. The Lin Kuei do not rely on raw strength alone. We adapt the battlefield to our advantage. He struck, not at Beerus, but at the ice-covered floor beneath the destroyer's feet. The surface shattered, revealing a pit filled with supercooled air, cold enough to freeze flesh instantly. Simultaneously, Sub-Zero created an ice clone behind Beerus, attacking from two angles while the destroyer dealt with unstable footing. Beerus simply hovered, floating above the pit without effort. Flight solves the pit problem, but the clone, that's creative. He caught the ice clone's sword strike, and the construct shattered into harmless snow. Though ultimately ineffective, ice can't hurt me, Sub-Zero. I've survived in the vacuum of space. Your cold is uncomfortable at best.
I know. Sub-Zero launched a barrage of ice projectiles, not at Beerus, but around him, creating a spherical prison of floating ice shards that began contracting inward. Which is why I'm not trying to freeze you. The ice shards converged simultaneously, stabbing inward from all angles. Beerus destroyed them with a pulse of ki, purple energy disintegrating the frozen weapons. But in that moment of defensive action, Sub-Zero had closed the distance. The Grandmaster's hands pressed against Beerus's chest, and something happened that shocked every observer. Frost actually formed on the destroyer's clothing. I'm not freezing your body, Sub-Zero explained, his hands glowing with intense cryomantic power. I'm attempting to freeze your ki. Your energy signature radiates power constantly. If I can create enough thermal resistance, perhaps I can slow your reaction time by microseconds. Beerus looked down at the frost, then up at Sub-Zero with an expression of delighted surprise. You magnificent bastard! You're not fighting me, you're fighting my energy output. That's brilliant! Completely ineffective against someone of my level, but the strategy is sound. He flexed his ki slightly, and the frost evaporated instantly. But Sub-Zero had already moved, creating ice pillars that erupted from the ground, not to trap Beerus, but to create a maze of frozen structures that blocked line of sight and created ambush opportunities. You're learning from Scorpion, Beerus called out, weaving between the pillars with casual ease, using the environment, creating opportunities, adapting tactics mid-battle. This is much more entertaining than simple direct assault. Sub-Zero emerged from behind a pillar, sliding on a path of ice that gave him explosive speed. His ice-enhanced punch aimed for Beerus's jaw would have shattered stone. It connected with the destroyer's palm.
Good speed, Beerus acknowledged, holding Sub-Zero's fist steady. That ice sliding technique adds considerable momentum to your strikes. In a normal fight, that could turn the tide. But this isn't a normal fight. Sub-Zero's free hand swept upward, ice spreading from the captured fist up Beerus's arm in a flash freeze attempt. Beerus let it happen, watching with academic interest as ice encased his entire arm up to the shoulder. Opportunistic. You're testing whether sustained application works better than burst attacks. The answer is no, but I appreciate the experimental approach. The ice shattered as Beerus simply tensed his muscles. Sub-Zero backflipped away, landing in a defensive crouch, breathing slightly heavier. 2 minutes of constant high-level technique, and he'd accomplished exactly nothing beyond mildly impressing his opponent. "You're analyzing me," Sub-Zero said, realization dawning. "Every technique I use, you're categorizing, understanding, filing away for future reference." "Correct." Beerus lowered his hands, adopting a more relaxed stance. "I learn through observation. Every opponent teaches me something about their universe's combat philosophy. You've shown me that your realm values strategy and adaptation over raw power. Your ice manipulation is sophisticated, your tactics sound, your execution precise. Yet I cannot hurt you." "No," Beerus confirmed bluntly, "you cannot. The power gap is too vast. But that's not the point, is it? You're not trying to win. You're trying to learn. Every exchange teaches you something about fighting opponents beyond your level. You're treating this match as a masterclass." Sub-Zero straightened. Ice sword formed in his hand once more. "Scorpion told me to view you as the ultimate teacher, rather than an enemy." "Wise Spectre," Beerus gestured for Sub-Zero to continue. "Very well, student. Show me what else Lin Kuei discipline has developed. I'll defend at exactly your level. No higher, no lower. Let's see how much you can grow in the next few minutes." What followed was unlike anything the tournament had seen. It wasn't a fight. It was a training session disguised as combat. Sub-Zero attacked with everything he had, and Beerus matched his speed and power exactly, creating perfect parity. When Sub-Zero created ice armor, Beerus allowed it to slow his strikes. When Sub-Zero formed an ice weapon, Beerus fought as if it could actually harm him. The Grandmaster learned rapidly. He began predicting Beerus's counters, adapting his techniques mid-execution, combining ice powers with hand-to-hand combat in increasingly creative ways. His famous ice ball projectile evolved into a multi-stage trap. His ice slide became a feinting tool rather than just movement. His ice clone technique began spawning multiple constructs that attacked in coordinated patterns. Beerus exclaimed as Sub-Zero executed a particularly clever combination: ice slide into uppercut, with an ice clone striking simultaneously from behind, while frozen spikes erupted from the ground. That sequence had actual synergy. If I were a normal opponent, that might have landed. Sub-Zero was exhausted now, breathing hard, ice powers flickering as his energy reserves depleted. But his eyes burned with understanding. He learned more in 5 minutes against Beerus than in years of normal training. "I yield," he finally said, planting his ice sword in the ground and bowing. "I cannot defeat you, Destroyer, but I thank you for the lesson." Beerus walked over, and to everyone's shock, bowed back. "You are a true martial artist, Sub-Zero. You don't just have power, you have discipline, adaptability, and the wisdom to learn from any situation. In my universe, that makes you more dangerous than most gods." The crowd erupted in applause, not for victory, but for the display of pure martial excellence they'd witnessed. This was Mortal Kombat at its finest. Two warriors pushing each other to grow, honor respected even in decisive defeat. Liu Kang's voice rang out. Winner, Beerus. He advances to the semifinals. As Sub-Zero departed the arena, Scorpion met him at the exit. The Spectre nodded once, acknowledgement between warriors. Sub-Zero had taken the advice to heart and emerged better for it. But now came the real test. Liu Kang descended into the arena, dragon fire erupting around him in a display of divine power that made the very air shimmer. Combatants, elders, warriors of all realms, witness now an exhibition match for the ages. Beerus's eyes gleamed with predatory excitement. Finally, a god who's actually strong wants to fight me. I've been waiting for this since I arrived. Then wait no longer, Destroyer. Liu Kang's hands ignited with dragon fire, and reality itself seemed to bend around his power. The arena fell silent. Fire God versus Destruction God. Creator versus Annihilator. This was why they'd come to watch.
The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the arena as Liu Kang and Beerus faced each other. This wasn't a tournament match. No rules about fatalities, no restrictions beyond the basic cosmic laws that prevented either from simply erasing the other from existence. This was an exhibition in the truest sense. Two divine beings testing each other's limits. "Before we begin," Liu Kang said, dragon fire coiling around his arms like living serpents, "understand that I won't hold back as I did with mortal combatants. You wanted to face a god at full power. I'll give you that." Excellent. Beerus's aura flared purple and black, destruction energy crackling around him in visible waves. The Elder Gods had lifted their most stringent restrictions for this match, allowing both combatants to access their true divine nature. I was beginning to think this universe only had gods who were powerful in name only. Raiden stood at the arena's edge, lightning flickering nervously around him. He'd fought Liu Kang before, in the previous timeline, during their bitter conflict when Liu Kang had become a revenant. He knew the Fire God's power intimately, and he could feel Beerus's energy even from this distance, oppressive and alien. This wasn't just a fight. This was two cosmic forces colliding, and reality itself might not survive intact. "Begin!" Raiden's voice carried, and both gods moved. Liu Kang struck first, his speed enhanced by divine power that let him move between moments. His fist, wreathed in dragon fire hot enough to melt steel, aimed for Beerus's face with the precision of someone who'd spent lifetimes perfecting Shaolin technique. Beerus caught it. But unlike with Kotal Kahn's attacks, this one made him slide backwards several inches, boots scraping against stone. The Destroyer's eyes widened. That actually had force behind it. Good. "I am not Kotal Kahn," Liu Kang said, his other hand already launching a second strike. "I have fought gods, demons, sorcerers, and titans across multiple timelines. I have died and returned. I have wielded the hourglass itself and rewritten reality. Do not patronize me." Beerus blocked the second strike, then the third, fourth, and fifth, as Liu Kang unleashed a combination that would have pulverized mountains. Each impact generated shockwaves that cracked the arena floor, forcing spectators to shield themselves from the pressure waves. "That's more like it," Beerus laughed, genuine excitement in his voice. He retaliated with a punch that Liu Kang barely dodged, the air pressure alone from the missed strike creating a visible shockwave that shattered a nearby pillar. Liu Kang spun away, hands forming intricate patterns as he summoned his most powerful technique, Dragon Fire. Massive spectral dragons materialized, their forms composed of pure flame and divine energy. 4 of them, each the size of buildings, launched toward Beerus from different angles, their roars shaking the heavens. Beerus didn't dodge. He met the first dragon head-on, his fist piercing through its flaming skull and dispersing the construct.
The second dragon he kicked away, his leg moving faster than mortal eyes could track. The third and fourth converged simultaneously, but Beerus simply released a pulse of destruction energy, not his full Hakai, but enough to obliterate the fire dragons before they could engulf him. Impressive summoning technique, Beerus acknowledged, landing lightly. Those dragons had actual substance, not just visual flair. In my universe, we'd call that key construct creation. You've mastered it. I've had multiple lifetimes to perfect it, Liu Kang said. His hands ignited again, but this time the fire was different, golden rather than red, purer, hotter. This was the fire of a god who'd absorbed the power of the hourglass itself. But I have more than fire. He struck the ground, and reality rippled. Time itself stuttered, not freezing completely, but slowing for everything except Liu Kang. The fire god used this temporal advantage to land a dozen strikes against Beerus before time resumed its normal flow. The destroyer staggered, actually pushed back by the assault. When time normalized, he was grinning wider than ever. Time manipulation. You've been holding on me, fire god. What else can you do? This. Liu Kang's form blurred, and suddenly there were 5 of him, each one solid and radiating identical power. Timeline manipulation allowed him to pull alternate versions of himself into the present moment, not illusions, but actual Liu Kangs from parallel possibilities.
All 5 attacked simultaneously, their combined assault forcing Beerus onto the defensive for the first time since arriving in this universe. Dragon fire from 5 angles, temporal distortions making their movements unpredictable, divine power that actually required Beerus to exert effort to block. The god of destruction's expression shifted from amusement to focus. This was what he'd come for, an opponent who could make him try, even if only slightly. Hakai! Beerus's voice carried absolute authority, and purple-black energy exploded from his form. The technique was limited, not the full existence erasure that violated tournament philosophy, but enough raw destruction energy to obliterate lesser beings. 4 of the Liu Kangs vanished instantly, erased from this timeline. Only the true Liu Kang remained, his divine protection as timeline keeper, preventing complete annihilation. But even he was driven to one knee, divine fire flickering as he resisted the destruction energy. "You can erase possibilities themselves," Liu Kang gasped, understanding dawning. "That wasn't just power, that was conceptual destruction. You erased the potential timelines those versions represented." "Correct," Beerus lowered his hand, the destruction energy dissipating. "I don't just destroy physical matter. I can erase concepts, possibilities, even abstract ideas. That's what makes me a god of destruction rather than just someone strong. I eliminate things from existence on fundamental levels." Liu Kang stood, his expression grave but determined. "Then I must show you that this timeline, these possibilities, are worth preserving, that we're more than just abstracts to be erased." He closed his eyes, and when they reopened, they burned with pure golden fire. The dragon tattoo on his torso began to glow, ancient power passed down through generations of Mortal Kombat champions, now amplified by godhood. This was Liu Kang channeling everything: his Shaolin training, his tournament victories, his experiences as Revenant and Redeemer, his role as Fire God and Timeline Keeper. Dragon Ascension! Liu Kang's form erupted into a massive eastern dragon composed of divine fire, easily 50 meters long, its body coiling through the air with serpentine grace. This wasn't a summoned construct, this was transformation, Liu Kang becoming the dragon itself. The divine dragon struck with speed that actually surprised Beerus.
Flaming jaws snapped where the destroyer had been standing, missing by inches. The tail whipped around for a follow-up, forcing Beerus to catch it, and the impact generated a sonic boom that shattered windows in the Academy buildings. "Now we're talking," Beerus shouted, actually using both hands to hold the dragon's tail. The flames were hot enough to bother him, not hurt, but bother, which was more than anything else in this universe had managed. "This is the power of a timeline creator. This is what I wanted to see." The dragon's roar shook the arena, divine fire washing over Beerus in waves. The god of destruction tanked the flames, feeling genuine heat for the first time since arriving. His clothing smoldered, his skin reddened slightly, and he loved every second of it. Liu Kang as dragon spiraled upward, then dove, building momentum and speed before slamming into Beerus with the full weight of divine transformation. The impact crater was massive, 30 meters across and 5 meters deep, with cracks radiating outward like a spider web. Dust and smoke obscured the arena. Combatants leaned forward, desperate to see the outcome. Had Liu Kang actually hurt the destroyer? Had the fire god found the key to challenging this impossible opponent? The smoke cleared. Beerus stood at the center of the crater, one hand raised, having caught the dragon by its jaw. His expression was pure euphoria. "That's it! That's the power I wanted to feel! Again, fire god! Hit me again!" The divine dragon tried to pull free, but Beerus's grip was absolute. "You're magnificent, Liu Kang. In my universe, you'd be considered low-tier god level, nothing compared to the angels or grand priest, but stronger than most Kais. That's impressive for a universe with such limited energy scaling." Liu Kang transformed back to humanoid form, still gripped by Beerus's hand around his throat. The fire god's eyes burned with determination rather than fear. "I'm not finished." "You have too," Sir Beerus said. "Enough for me to get a sense." Liu Kang stepped back, and his expression was dire. "I have another transformation, a final Hakim from within me, but I fear if I use it, it may undo this timeline. Beerus, you may be my only challenge, but I cannot risk everything. I will need help."
Liu Kang gathered every drop of divine energy remaining. His body ignited with golden red flames that made the air itself shimmer and warp. The dragon tattoo blazed so brightly it was painful to look at directly. Time distorted around him, reality bending to his will as timeline keeper. This was Liu Kang transcending his own limits, pushing past what he'd thought possible, driven by the need to prove his timeline was worth preserving. He poured everything, all his training, all his deaths and resurrections, all his love for Kitana and friendship with his allies, all his responsibility as protector, into one final attack. Eternal Dragon Strike! He moved at speeds that broke causality, attacking from future, present, and past simultaneously. His strikes landed before being thrown, the temporal paradox allowing him to hit Beerus from multiple time frames at once. Dragonfire and timeline manipulation combined into an assault that transcended normal physics. Beerus took every hit, allowing Liu Kang his moment of absolute power. The fire god's fists struck with everything he had: face, torso, legs, arms, every vital point targeted with Shaolin precision, enhanced by divine fury. The combination lasted 10 seconds that felt like an eternity, each strike carrying the weight of an entire timeline's worth of determination. Finally, Liu Kang stepped back, completely spent. His divine fire flickered and died. His knees buckled, and only pride kept him standing. He'd given everything, absolutely everything,
and knew it still wasn't enough. Beerus stood there, clothes torn, face slightly bruised, actually breathing harder than when the fight began. That was spectacular. You actually made me feel that, Liu Kang. The last being who managed that was Super Saiyan God Goku, and he's one of the strongest mortals in Universe 7. But it wasn't enough, Liu Kang said between gasps. No, Beerus admitted honestly, but it was impressive. You're a true god, Fire God, not in title, but in capability. Your timeline is lucky to have you as its keeper. Beerus walked over, and in a gesture that shocked everyone watching, bowed, a proper bow of respect between equals, even though they clearly weren't equals in power. Your universe has proven itself worthy, Beerus declared loudly enough for all to hear. I came seeking entertainment, wondering if anything here could justify its existence. You've shown me warriors with honor, gods with humility, and a fire god who fights with everything he has, despite knowing he'll lose. That's the mark of a universe worth preserving. Liu Kang straightened, surprised. You're sparing us? Just like that? I was never going to destroy you, Beerus admitted honestly. I was curious if you'd fight with conviction, even when facing impossible odds. You did. That matters more than victory. He looked around at the assembled combatants. All of you, you fight not because you can win, but because fighting itself has meaning. That philosophy resonates with me. The arena erupted in confused celebration, relief that their universe wasn't about to be erased, pride that their fire god had earned a destroyer's respect, and lingering fear about what came next, because the tournament still had matches remaining, and Beerus was still advancing towards the finals. The tournament semifinals took place the following day. The remaining matches were anticlimactic after witnessing divine combat between Liu Kang and Beerus. Though each fighter gave their best, the combatants understood they were competing for second place. Scorpion defeated Johnny Cage in a brutal match that ended with the Spectre's kunai at the actor's throat, mercy granted at the last moment. Cassie Cage, channeling her father's ancient power, managed to defeat Kung Lao through a combination of strategy and raw determination that made both Johnny and Sonya beam with pride. But all eyes were on the finals bracket: Beerus versus Scorpion, Cassie Cage versus Shang Tsung for the other finalist position. The Cassie versus Shang Tsung match was ruthless. The sorcerer had studied the young fighter, understood her power came from her bloodline, that green energy inherited from Johnny Cage's ancient Mediterranean ancestry. He'd prepared countermeasures, soul magic designed to suppress supernatural abilities. But Cassie had inherited more than power from her parents. She had Sonya's tactical mind and Johnny's refusal to quit. The match pushed both fighters to their limits. Shang Tsung's shape-shifting made him unpredictable, one moment fighting as himself, the next assuming the forms of warriors he'd defeated, each with their full capabilities. Cassie adapted, using her drone technology and combat training to counter techniques she'd never faced before. The turning point came when Shang Tsung made a fatal error. He transformed into Liu Kang's form, attempting to use dragon fire against her. But Cassie had trained with Liu Kang for years. She knew his patterns, his tells, his rhythm. The imitation was perfect in power, but flawed in execution. Her green energy-enhanced uppercut caught the fake Liu Kang in mid-fireball, the impact so powerful it forced Shang Tsung back to his original form. Before the sorcerer could recover, Cassie's follow-up combination, learned from both parents, refined through special forces training, amplified by her supernatural bloodline, left him unconscious on the arena floor. Winner, Cassie Cage. The young fighter's victory shocked many. She'd defeated one of Mortal Kombat's most dangerous sorcerers through skill, adaptation, and determination. But as she left the arena, Cassie caught Beerus watching her with an expression that might have been approval. "Not bad, young warrior," the destroyer called out. "You've got potential. In a few decades, you might even be interesting." Coming from someone who destroyed planets, it was practically a ringing endorsement. Now came the semifinal, Beerus versus Scorpion. The Spectre entered the arena with hellfire blazing, his yellow eyes burning with intensity behind his skull-like mask. Hanzo Hasashi had walked the path from vengeance-consumed revenant to honorable protector, from Netherrealm's slave to Shirai Ryu's Grand Master. He understood loss, rage, redemption, and the weight of impossible choices. He also understood he was about to face the most powerful being he'd ever encountered. "Scorpion," Beerus greeted him, actually remembering the Spectre's name, the vengeance spirit who learned peace. "I've been curious about you since our conversation days ago. You claimed to have died and returned. Show me what that experience taught you." "Death taught me that power without purpose is meaningless," Scorpion replied, kunai and chain materializing in his hand. "Vengeance consumed me, made me a monster. Only when I let go of rage did I find true strength." "Philosophy won't save you in combat." "No," Scorpion agreed, his stance shifting to the ready position. "Begin." Scorpion struck immediately with his signature move, "Get over here," the kunai launching toward Beerus with hellfire trailing behind it, the chain enchanted with Netherrealm magic that bound even divine beings. Beerus caught the kunai between two fingers. "Interesting projectile. The chain has metaphysical properties beyond simple physical restraint. Clever design." Scorpion used the connected chain to pull himself forward, rather than pulling Beerus to him, a reversal of his typical technique. He launched into a spinning kick enhanced by hellfire, the flames hot enough to melt armor. Beerus blocked with his forearm, and for the first time actually commented on the sensation. "Your hellfire is different from the fire god's divine flames. It burns colder somehow. It targets the soul rather than the body. Netherrealm energy?"
"You analyze everything," Scorpion said, landing and immediately flowing into a combination of ninja techniques. His attacks were faster than Sub-Zero's, more aggressive than Kotal Kahn's, each strike carrying centuries of refined martial arts expertise. "Even in the midst of combat, you studying rather than fighting." "Guilty," Beerus admitted, parrying each strike with minimal effort. "I learned through observation. You could say studying combat is my way of showing respect. I care enough to understand how you fight." Scorpion teleported in a burst of hellfire, appearing behind Beerus with his kunai aimed at the destroyer's spine. The blade struck and stopped cold, unable to penetrate even clothing. "Your teleportation utilizes hellfire as a medium," Beerus noted, turning to face Scorpion. "You're not moving through space. You're briefly entering Netherrealm and exiting at a different location. That's actually sophisticated dimensional manipulation for a realm-specific technique." "Stop analyzing!" Scorpion's voice carried frustration. He unleashed a wave of hellfire that engulfed the entire arena floor, flames rising in walls that would incinerate normal beings. "Fight me!" Beerus stood in the center of the inferno, completely unbothered. "I am fighting you, Spectre, but I fight by understanding. That's the difference between destruction and annihilation. I study what I'm about to destroy, learn its nature, appreciate its existence before ending it."
The words struck Scorpion harder than any physical blow. This being didn't just destroy, he comprehended, he acknowledged. In his own way, Beerus showed more respect to his victims than many heroes showed their saved. "Then understand this," Scorpion said, his voice dropping to the deadly calm that preceded his most dangerous state. "I have killed gods, I have burned demons, I have torn through Lin Kuei assassins, Cyber Initiative warriors, and Netherrealm's finest. I have died and returned multiple times. I am not some warrior to be studied and dismissed." "I never said you were," Beerus replied seriously. "You're a legitimate fighter with real skill and experience. Your hellfire manipulation is sophisticated, your combat technique refined through actual warfare, and your determination absolute. In my universe, you'd be respected as a genuine martial artist. But I still can't hurt you." "No, you cannot. The power gap is too vast, but that doesn't diminish your worth as a warrior." Scorpion stood silent for a moment, hellfire dying around him. He'd known from the start this was unwinnable, but the Shirai Ryu way demanded he try anyway, demanded he honor the combat by giving everything. "Then let me show you one final technique, not to defeat you, I know that's impossible, but to show you what Earthrealm's warriors represent, what we fight for, even when we know we'll lose." His form ignited with hellfire more intense than before, but controlled, focused into his very essence rather than exploding outward. This was Scorpion channeling every lesson learned, every death survived, every moment of redemption earned. His body became living flame, a specter perfected. This is hellfire incarnation, the form I achieved when I finally mastered Netherrealm's power, rather than being mastered by it. Watch closely, Destroyer, because this represents something your universe may lack. "And what's that?" Beerus asked, genuinely curious. "Hope in the face of impossible odds." Scorpion attacked with speed that actually made Beerus move properly. No more casual blocking, but genuine defensive footwork. The Spectre's kunai had become extensions of his will, striking from impossible angles, guided by hellfire that responded to thought. His teleportation became unpredictable, entering and exiting Netherrealm mid-attack to create combinations that defied normal physics. Beerus found himself actually engaged in combat rather than just observing. Scorpion's attacks couldn't hurt him, but their precision and creativity demanded respect. Each strike was perfectly executed, every technique maximized for efficiency, all of it driven by determination that transcended rational calculation. "You're smiling," Scorpion noticed between exchanges. "Because this is fun," Beerus laughed, catching a hellfire-enhanced punch and using the momentum to spin Scorpion away. "You know you can't win, yet you're fighting with absolute conviction. That's what I've been seeking. Opponents who fight not because they think they'll win, but because fighting itself has meaning." "Then you understand Mortal Kombat's true purpose," Scorpion said, landing in a crouch. "We fight for victory alone. We fight because our realms, our families, our honor demands it. We fight because someone must stand against the darkness, even if we fall."
"That's beautiful," Beerus said, sincerely. "Stupid, but beautiful. In my universe, we call that plot armor, the irrational belief that determination can overcome impossible odds. It rarely works. But sometimes it does." Scorpion's eyes burned brighter. "Sometimes the impossible happens. Sometimes the underdog wins, and that possibility, however slim, is worth fighting for." He launched into his ultimate attack, channeling every drop of hellfire he could command. Infernal retribution! Netherrealm itself seemed to tear open above the arena, chains of hellfire descending to bind Beerus while flames erupted from below.
The technique was designed to trap and incinerate even gods, utilizing dimensional connections to bypass normal defenses. Beerus let it happen, allowing himself to be caught in Scorpion's ultimate technique. The hellfire chains wrapped around him, tightening with force that had previously bound elder gods. Flames hot enough to melt rock engulfed his form completely. For 3 seconds, Scorpion stood there, pouring everything into maintaining the technique. 3 seconds where he dared to hope that maybe, impossibly, he'd found something that could affect the destroyer. Then Beerus flexed, and the chains shattered. The hellfire dispersed like smoke in wind. The destroyer stood completely unharmed, not even winded. "Impressive technique," he said genuinely. "That would have killed most gods. Your mastery of Netherrealm energy is complete. You've transcended being its victim and become its master. That transformation alone is worth acknowledging." Scorpion fell to one knee, exhausted. He'd given everything: technique, power, will, hope, and it hadn't been enough. It had never been going to be enough. "I yield," he said quietly. "You are beyond my capability to challenge." Beerus walked over and offered his hand, the same gesture he'd shown Kotal Kahn. "You fought with honor and determination. In my universe, that makes you worthy of respect, regardless of the outcome." Scorpion took the hand, allowing himself to be pulled up. As he left the arena, the Spectre felt no shame, only the satisfaction of having given absolutely everything and surviving to fight another day. Liu Kang's announcement echoed. Winner, Beerus. He advances to the finals. That evening, the tournament organizers gathered to discuss the finals match, Beerus versus Cassie Cage. "It's not even a contest," Johnny Cage said bluntly, his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "I'm proud of Cassie for making it this far, but fighting Beerus, that's suicide." "I have to try," Cassie insisted. "I didn't come this far to forfeit. Besides, everyone else gave their best. I owe it to them to do the same." "The girl has courage," Sonya agreed, though her tactical mind was already calculating survival strategies rather than victory scenarios. "But her father's right. This isn't a winnable fight." "Perhaps winning isn't the point," Raiden suggested, lightning crackling thoughtfully. "Every warrior who's faced Beerus has earned his respect through their determination and skill. Cassie could do the same." "Or she could die," Johnny countered. "I've fought gods before, served on teams that saved the universe multiple times. But Beerus, he's on a different level entirely. Nothing we've faced compares." Liu Kang listened to the debate, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "The choice is Cassie's. She's earned the right to make it. If she wants to face Beerus, we'll support her. If she chooses to forfeit, there's no shame in acknowledging impossible odds." All eyes turned to Cassie Cage. The young warrior stood silent for a moment, then squared her shoulders in a gesture inherited from her mother. "I'm fighting, not because I think I can win. I'm not delusional. But because someone has to represent Earthrealm in the finals, and I'll be damned if I let fear make that decision for me." Johnny's pride warred with his parental terror. Finally, he pulled his daughter into a tight hug. "Then show him what a cage is made of. Win or lose, make him remember your name." The finals were set. Tomorrow, Cassie Cage would face the God of Destruction in Mortal Kombat's championship match. The outcome was inevitable, but how she got there would define her legacy.
The final day of the tournament arrived with unusual weather. Storm clouds gathering despite clear forecasts, as if reality itself recognized the significance of what was about to occur. The arena had been repaired from previous battles, but scorch marks and cracks remained as testament to the power that had been unleashed throughout the competition. Combatants from every realm gathered in the viewing galleries.
This wasn't just about crowning a champion. This was about witnessing a mortal face a god of destruction, understanding what Earthrealm's warriors represented when facing impossible odds. Cassie Cage entered from the east wearing her Special Forces combat gear, green energy already flickering around her fists. At 20-something years old, she'd already proven herself as a formidable combatant, defeated Shinnok in a previous timeline, and now stood as Earthrealm's representative in the finals. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tactical ponytail, her expression set with determination that barely masked underlying fear. She wasn't stupid. She knew what she was facing. Beerus entered from the west, and for the first time since the tournament began, he looked genuinely contemplative rather than bored or excited. He'd observed this young warrior throughout the competition, watched her adapt and overcome, recognized the potential that came from combining two bloodlines of power. "Cassie Cage," he said as they approached the arena's center, "daughter of Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, inheritor of ancient Mediterranean power and modern tactical training. You've impressed me throughout this tournament." "Thanks, I think," Cassie tried for her father's casual humor, but her voice carried tension. "Look, I'm just going to be straight with you. We both know how this ends. You're a god who destroys planets. I'm a soldier who punches above her weight class. But I'm here anyway because that's what we do in Earthrealm. We fight even when we know we'll lose." "I respect that," Beerus said genuinely. "More than you know. In my universe, most beings flee when they sense my power. The fact that you're standing here, fully aware of the gap between us, speaks volumes about your character." Liu Kang stepped forward, his fire god presence radiating authority. "This is the final match of the tournament. Cassie Cage of Earthrealm versus Beerus, god of destruction. The winner claims victory and the right to shape their realm's future." He paused, looking directly at Cassie. "Combatant, do you accept these terms?" Cassie took a deep breath, channeling the green energy that marked her bloodline's power. It flowed through her like electricity, ancient strength awakening in response to mortal determination. This was the same power that defeated a fallen elder god, the same gift that proved even gods could be challenged by those with courage and skill. "I accept," she said firmly. "Then let the final match begin." Cassie moved immediately, not giving herself time to overthink. Her training kicked in, Special Forces tactical doctrine combined with combat tournament experience. She feinted left, rolled right, and launched a series of enhanced punches aimed at Beerus's defenses. The destroyer blocked each strike with single fingers, analyzing her technique. "Your power is interesting. It's not inherent divine energy like Liu Kang's fire. It's genetic, passed down through bloodlines, ancient warrior stock awakened in modern descendants. Yeah, my dad's great-great-whatever grandfather was some kind of Mediterranean warrior cult member. That green glow? Family gift. Saved the universe with it once already." She enhanced her next attack, channeling maximum energy into an uppercut that had previously shattered Shinnok's defenses. The green energy exploded against Beerus's palm in a flash of light and force. Beerus caught it easily, but nodded approvingly. That had legitimate power behind it. If I were a normal god, someone like your elder gods or even lesser destroyers, that might have actually hurt. Your family's bloodline is potent. "I'm glad you approve," she grunted, spinning away and pulling out her drone. The small flying device deployed instantly, firing energy blasts from multiple angles while she attacked from the front. Coordination tactics overwhelmed the opponent's ability to defend multiple vectors simultaneously. Beerus swatted the drone from the air with casual backhand, then caught Cassie's kick before it connected with his ribs. Technology integration. Smart. You're not just relying on inherited power, you're using every advantage available. That's the mark of a true combatant.
He released her, letting Cassie backflip away. "You know," he said conversationally, "in my universe there was a mortal named Goku. When I first met him, he was vastly weaker than me, not even close to my level. But he had something special, the ability to constantly improve, to adapt and grow stronger through each battle. I sense similar potential in you." "Is this the part where you offer to train me?" Cassie asked, slightly breathless, as she circled, looking for openings. "Because I've seen that movie. The wise master trains the plucky protagonist, who then surpasses them through determination and friendship power." Beerus laughed, genuine amusement rather than mockery. "I like you. You've got your father's humor and your mother's tactical mind. That's a dangerous combination." His expression grew more serious. "But no, I'm not offering to train you. I'm simply acknowledging that you have potential that extends beyond this match." Cassie launched into her ultimate combination, the one she'd been practicing specifically for this tournament. Enhanced strikes flowing into grapples, each movement building momentum and power. Her green energy surged with each hit, the ancient power responding to her desperation and determination. She landed 17 strikes in rapid succession, each one perfectly placed, each one carrying everything she had. Her final blow, a double palm strike enhanced by maximum energy output, connected directly with Beerus's chest. The impact created a shockwave that cracked the arena floor. Green energy exploded in a dome around them. For one heartbeat, Cassie dared to hope she'd accomplished something meaningful. Then the energy dissipated, and Beerus stood completely unharmed, not even moved from his position. "That was your ultimate technique," he observed. "You've been building toward that combination throughout the tournament, refining it with each match. The execution was flawless, timing perfect, power maximized, technique sound. Against any normal opponent, that would have been devastating." Cassie stepped back, breathing hard, energy flickering as her reserves depleted. "But not against you." "No," Beerus confirmed gently, "not against me. The power gap is simply too vast. Your bloodline gives you strength beyond normal mortals, but I exist on a scale where even gods are relatively weak. It's not a reflection of your skill or determination, it's just reality." "So what now?" Cassie asked, too exhausted to continue her assault. "You going to finish me off? Show everyone what happens when mortals get uppity?" "Actually, I have a better idea." Beerus assumed a serious expression, his golden eyes focusing on Cassie with unusual intensity. "I'm going to make you an offer, one that will seem strange, but I assure you it's sincere." He raised his hand, and purple-black destruction energy began to gather around it, not the overwhelming force he'd used against Liu Kang's timeline constructs, but controlled, measured, purposeful. "Your bloodline power is genetic, passed through generations, awakening in times of need. It's strong, but it has limitations. What if I told you I could enhance it, not replace it, but amplify what's already there through exposure to destruction energy?" The arena fell silent. Every combatant leaned forward, trying to understand what Beerus was proposing. "You want to power me up?" Cassie asked incredulously. "Why? What's the catch?" "No catch. I'm simply curious." Beerus's destruction energy pulsed hypnotically. "Your potential interests me. I want to see what happens when ancient Mediterranean warrior bloodline meets cosmic destruction energy. It might kill you, enhance you, or do absolutely nothing. But isn't that curiosity worth exploring?"
"That's insane," Johnny Cage shouted from the gallery. "Cassie, don't let him experiment on you." "It's her choice," Sonya countered, though her voice carried concern. "Cassie's an adult and a trained soldier. She can decide if the risk is worth potential reward." Cassie looked at the swirling destruction energy, then at Beerus. "If I agree to this, and that's a big if, exactly what would happen?" "Honestly, I don't know," Beerus shrugged. "I've never tried to enhance someone from another universe before. The destruction energy might harmonize with your bloodline power, creating something new. It might reject you and erase you from existence, or it might do absolutely nothing because our dimensional energies are incompatible. That's what makes it interesting." "So it's a gamble?" "Everything in combat is a gamble," Beerus pointed out. "You gambled by entering this
Tournament. You gambled by facing me. At least this gamble offers potential benefit rather than just inevitable defeat." Cassie was silent for a long moment, weighing options. She could refuse, accept honorable defeat and walk away with her life and the respect of having made it to the finals. Or she could take an insane risk that might kill her, but could potentially give her power beyond anything her bloodline had previously achieved. She thought about her parents, Johnny's reckless courage, Sonya's calculated risk-taking. She thought about defeating Shinnok, about refusing to back down even when outmatched. She thought about what it meant to be a cage. "Screw it," she decided. "Let's see what happens. But if this kills me, my dad's going to be really annoying about it." "Noted." Beerus gestured for her to approach. "Stand still. This will either be intensely painful or completely painless. I honestly can't predict which." Cassie walked forward, green energy flickering nervously around her body. She stood directly in front of the god of destruction, vulnerable and trusting in a way that defied all tactical logic. Beerus placed his palm against her forehead, and destruction energy flowed. The sensation was indescribable. Cassie felt her cells screaming, her DNA rewriting, her ancient bloodline power encountering something it had never been designed to process. The green glow that had always felt like a warm glow became a raging inferno. Pain lanced through every nerve. But underneath the agony, something was changing. Her bloodline, designed to awaken in response to divine threats, destruction energy recognized destruction energy as the ultimate divine threat. It adapted, evolved, transformed in real time to not just survive the exposure, but integrate it. The green glow around Cassie shifted, taking on purple-black undertones. Her eyes blazed with mixed energy, ancient warrior power fused with cosmic destruction. When she gasped, purple sparks mixed with green lightning. Beerus withdrew his hand, looking genuinely surprised. "Well, that worked better than expected." Cassie stumbled, catching herself before falling. Her entire body thrummed with new power that felt right and wrong simultaneously. She looked at her hands, green and purple energy dancing around each other, distinct yet harmonized. "What did you do to me?" "I gave your bloodline something to evolve against. Your ancient ancestors' power was designed to awaken when facing gods. I exposed you to destruction energy, something beyond any god your bloodline had previously encountered. In response, your genetic gift adapted, incorporating aspects of what it needed to survive. You are now something unique, a mortal carrying both ancient warrior bloodline and traces of destruction energy." Cassie tested her new power, throwing a punch at empty air. The impact generated a shockwave that actually made Beerus raise an eyebrow. The energy output had increased exponentially, not enough to threaten the destroyer, but far beyond what she'd possessed minutes ago. "This is incredible," she breathed.
I feel like I could take on Shinnok again and actually win easily this time." "Probably," Beerus agreed. "Though I should warn you, this enhancement isn't permanent. Destruction energy is corrosive to mortal bodies. Over the next few months, it will gradually fade as your system purges what it cannot permanently integrate. You'll keep some residual enhancement, but not this level. Use it while you can." "How long do I have?" "At full power, maybe 3 months, then declining gradually over the next year until you settle at perhaps 20% above your original baseline, still enhanced, but not dramatically." Beerus smiled. "Consider it a gift, temporary god-adjacent power to use as you see fit." Cassie looked at Liu Kang, who nodded slowly, acknowledging that Beerus had essentially just given Earthrealm a temporarily supercharged champion. Then she looked at her parents, both of whom seemed torn between pride and terror. Finally, she looked back at Beerus. "So, do we finish the match, or—" "The match is over," Beerus declared. "I came to this tournament seeking entertainment, and I found it. You and your fellow combatants have shown me warriors who fight with honor, gods who struggle against impossible odds, and mortals who refuse to surrender even when defeat is certain. That's worth more than any victory." He turned to address the entire arena. "I forfeit. Cassie Cage wins the tournament by default." The announcement sent shockwaves through the assembled combatants. A god of destruction, undefeated throughout the competition, voluntarily surrendering in the finals? "Why?" Cassie asked, echoing everyone's thoughts. "Because winning would be pointless," Beerus said simply. "I didn't come here to prove I'm strongest. I already know that. I came seeking something that could challenge my boredom, and your universe provided it. Not through power, but through spirit. That deserves recognition." Liu Kang stepped forward, his voice carrying across the arena with divine authority. "Then by forfeit, Cassie Cage is declared champion of this Mortal Kombat tournament. She has earned victory and the right to shape Earthrealm's future." The crowd erupted, celebration mixed with confusion, relief that Beerus wasn't going to destroy anyone, and pride that an Earthrealm warrior had claimed victory even under these bizarre circumstances. As Cassie stood there, still processing what had happened, Beerus leaned in and whispered quietly enough that only she could hear. "Use that power wisely, young warrior. You now carry a fragment of destruction itself. It can save realms or destroy them, depending on your choices. Don't make me regret being generous." Then he walked away, heading toward the exit. "Wait!" Cassie called out. "What are you going to do now? Stay in our universe? Go back to yours?" Beerus paused, considering. "I think I'll explore your realms for a while. Sample your cuisines, observe your warriors, see what else this universe has to offer. Then, when I've satisfied my curiosity, I'll return home." He glanced back with a slight smile. "Though I may visit again someday. Your Mortal Kombat tournaments are more entertaining than most of Universe 7's conflicts." With that, the god of destruction simply walked out of the arena, hands clasped behind his back, looking for all the world like someone heading to lunch rather than a cosmic being who'd just upended an entire tournament. The combatants stood in stunned silence until Johnny Cage finally broke it. Did a god of destruction just call our universe entertaining and then leave to get food? "I think so," Sonya confirmed, equally bewildered. "Huh," Johnny processed this. "Weirdest tournament ever." The weeks following the tournament rippled across all realms like aftershocks from a divine collision. Cassie Cage, now carrying the unprecedented fusion of ancient bloodline power and destruction energy, became a legend spoken of in every corner of existence. Warriors sought her out, some for training, others simply to witness what a mortal enhanced by a god of destruction looked like in action. The purple-green energy that crackled around her fists served as visible proof that impossible things could happen when determination met cosmic curiosity. But the real impact went deeper than one warrior's enhancement. Mortal Kombat itself had changed. The tournament had always been about proving worth through combat, but Beerus had introduced a new philosophy, that power without honor meant nothing, that victory without challenge was hollow, and that even gods could be impressed by mortal determination. Every combatant who'd faced the destroyer carried that lesson forward. Sub-Zero refined his techniques with renewed focus, understanding that adaptation mattered more than raw strength. Scorpion taught his Shirai Yu students that fighting impossible odds built character, even in defeat. Kotal Kahn returned to Outworld with humility earned through facing true cosmic power. Liu Kang stood in the hourglass chamber, watching timeline threads stabilize in ways he hadn't anticipated. Beerus's presence had been a massive variable, one that could have destroyed everything. Instead, the god of destruction had validated the new era's philosophy, proven that this timeline was worth preserving, not through power, but through the spirit of its warriors. "You're satisfied with how it ended?" Raiden asked, materializing beside the fire god. "More than satisfied," Liu Kang replied. "Beerus could have destroyed us with a gesture. Instead, he chose to acknowledge our worth, enhance one of our champions, and leave peacefully. That's unexpectedly merciful." "He's still out there," Raiden pointed out, "traveling through our realms, sampling food, observing combatants, seeing what else this universe has to offer." "He won't." Liu Kang's certainty came from divine understanding rather than hope. "Beerus isn't malicious, he's bored, and we've proven we can cure that boredom through challenge and honor rather than just power. As long as we remain interesting, we remain safe."
A dangerous philosophy, existing at the whim of a destroyer's entertainment. "Better than existing at his destructive whim," Liu Kang countered. "Every universe survives through some cosmic entity's tolerance. At least Beerus is honest about his criteria." In Earthrealm, Cassie trained with her enhanced abilities, pushing herself to master the temporary power before it faded. Johnny and Sonya watched their daughter move with speed and strength that dwarfed even their combined capabilities, pride mixing with concern about what would happen when the enhancement wore off. "She's going to be crushed when she returns to normal levels," Johnny said quietly. "She's a cage," Sonya replied. "She'll adapt. Besides, Beerus said she'll keep some residual enhancement. She'll be stronger than before even after the destruction energy fades." Still, Johnny watched Cassie destroy a training dummy with a single enhanced punch, the purple-green energy obliterating steel and reinforced polymers. She's had a taste of god-level power. Coming down from that is going to hurt. But they underestimated their daughter. Cassie understood from the beginning that this was temporary, a gift to be used, not a crutch to depend on. She trained not to maintain the power, but to learn from it, to understand what fighting at higher levels required, so that when she returned to her baseline, she'd be fundamentally better than before. That was the true lesson Beerus had taught. Power was temporary, but skill and wisdom were permanent.
Across the realms, reports filtered back about the god of destruction's travels. He'd been seen in Outworld, critiquing Shao Kahn's palace architecture while sampling local cuisine. He'd visited Order Realm, finding their rigid structure tedious but amusing. He'd even ventured into Netherrealm, where Quan Chi had wisely avoided approaching him after witnessing what destruction energy could do. Everywhere Beerus went, he left impressions, sometimes literally, in the form of crater-shaped footprints where he'd landed too forcefully, but also philosophically. Warriors who met him came away changed, understanding that true strength came from constant growth rather than achieved power. Shao Kahn, true to his word, attempted to challenge Beerus to their promised unrestricted battle. The fight lasted exactly 3 seconds. Beerus caught Shao Kahn's warhammer mid-swing, flicked the warlord's forehead with one finger, and sent him crashing through 7 mountains. "That was disappointing," Beerus commented to the unconscious emperor, "but I appreciate your courage." When Shao Kahn eventually regained consciousness, he wore his defeat like a badge of honor. He'd fought a god of destruction at full power and survived. Most beings couldn't claim that distinction. The Elder Gods convened one final time regarding the Beerus situation. He remains in our timeline, a being we cannot control or predict. Yet he has shown no hostile intent. He evaluates rather than destroys, acknowledges rather than erases. Perhaps we should view him as an unexpected audit, cosmic verification that our timeline meets acceptable standards. And if we fail his standards someday? Silence answered that question. They all knew the consequence. Then we must ensure we never become boring, Liu Kang's voice echoed through their realm. We must continue evolving, challenging ourselves, proving through each generation of combatants that this universe deserves to exist. That's not a burden, that's inspiration. The Elder Gods considered this perspective. For beings who existed since creation, who'd watched eons pass in cosmic routine, perhaps having a destroyer periodically evaluate their relevance wasn't entirely unwelcome. It kept them honest, prevented stagnation, reminded them that existence was earned rather than guaranteed. "Very well," they declared in unison. "Let Beerus remain as long as he wishes. We shall observe his observations." Months later, as Cassie's enhancement began fading as predicted, she sat with her father at a training facility, watching new recruits practice. "How are you feeling? With the power drain." "Honestly, relieved." Cassie flexed her hands, watching green energy flicker without purple overtones now. "This," she gestured at her normal enhanced state, "this is me, trained, earned, mine." Beerus gave me a glimpse of what's possible, but he also taught me that chasing temporary power is pointless. Better to master what I actually have. When did you get so wise? When I got enhanced by a god who destroys planets and learned that even he gets bored with overwhelming power, Cassie smiled. Turns out the most powerful being I've ever met struggles with the same existential question we all face. What's the point if nothing challenges you? Johnny nodded, understanding. So what's next for the tournament champion? Keep training, keep improving, keep proving that Earthrealm produces warriors worth respecting. Cassie stood, stretching. Beerus might come back someday. When he does, I want him to see that we didn't waste the opportunity he gave us, that we're still interesting, still evolving, still worth his time. And if he comes back bored and decides to destroy us anyway? Then we'll face him the same way we faced every impossible threat, together, with honor, refusing to surrender even when logic says we should. Cassie grinned. It's the Earthrealm way. far across the dimensional barriers, in a universe of 12 realms where Saiyans battled gods and mortals achieved divine power through training, Whis greeted his lord Beerus as the destroyer returned through the dimensional rift. "Welcome back, my lord. How was your excursion to that alternate universe?" Beerus settled into his favorite seat, accepting the meal Whis had prepared. "Surprisingly enjoyable. Their combat philosophy is interesting. They've created a tournament structure that forces even gods to demonstrate skill rather than just power. I participated, fought several warriors, even enhanced one of their mortals out of curiosity." "Enhanced, my lord? That's quite generous for you." "She had potential," Beerus said between bites. "Reminded me slightly of Goku, that stubborn refusal to quit even when thoroughly outmatched. Their entire universe operates on that principle. They're weak by our standards, but they have something Universe 7 often lacks." "And what's that?" "Purpose." Beerus looked thoughtful. "Their warriors don't fight just because they can. They fight for realms, families, honor, redemption. Every battle has meaning beyond simple strength comparison. It's refreshing." Whis smiled knowingly. "Will you visit again?" "Perhaps," Beerus said, though his tone suggested certainty rather than possibility. "Their Mortal Kombat tournament occurs periodically. I may attend the next one, see if their new generation of warriors maintains the standard. Besides, they have some interesting food. This pizza concept shows promise." "Of course, my lord. I'm sure they'll be delighted to host you again." Beerus didn't respond, already drifting toward sleep after his meal. But he smiled slightly, remembering warriors who faced him without flinching, gods who fought despite knowing they'd lose, and a universe that proved entertainment came not from overwhelming power, but from the determination to keep fighting regardless of odds. The god of destruction had entered Mortal Kombat seeking entertainment and found something better. Respect for a universe that, despite its limited power scale, understood what truly mattered in combat: honor, determination, the refusal to surrender. In a multiverse of infinite possibilities, that was worth preserving. And someday, when Beerus grew bored again, he would return to this strange universe where mortals fought gods, and sometimes, impossibly, improbably, inspirationally, actually won. The combat never ended, and neither did the stories born from warriors who refused to yield.